Hello, welcome to the Motorsport Review. I am your host, Perry Brown, and as you can see, I'm back in this setting, which means that this week I'm back with a guest. Yes, it's not just me talking on my own. I apologize for that for the last 2 weeks, but my schedule was just hectic. So proud to introduce to you all my guest this week. It is Luci from LJB Motorsport. I think I've got that right, LJB. I'm reading it on the screen and still doubting myself. But Luci, how are you? Welcome.
I'm all right. It's nice to be here. Thank you. It's nice to be doing a podcast for a change rather than talking to myself about motorsport in a room.
Yeah, I absolutely love that element of podcasting. I'm talking to you, but actually up to 5 people might log in and watch this at some point, and they're also in the room.
Yeah, that's very true. All 2 of you watching, spread the word.
But Mum, don't talk to Dad. Dad's already watching in the other room.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
So you answered my call because I said, look, I'm reviewing E1, and you did so in the best possible way by saying, what about all the rest of the racing that's on this weekend? What about WRC, MotoGP, IndyCar? There was so much going on, and we're going to focus on E1 a little bit about what that is. But I just wanted to highlight that, like how much is going on. When I go on social media, I'm sure you've done the same, and everyone's going, oh God, F1's back. Finally, it's been 2 long weeks of no F1. Yeah. And I'm like, just watch racing. There's so much out there.
It's like you've just ignored, like, for example, next weekend, people are saying, oh my God, F1's back. Well, you've just ignored the fact you've just had MotoGP, IndyCar last week, you had World Superbikes, MotoGP, BSBs, you forget about British Championships, stuff like that. I'm just like, hello. And majority of it is free. It is accessible, and or it's already included in the memberships you're paying for to watch Formula One or watch whatever.
That's just it. It's quite nice. A few of the things I've reviewed, you had to pay for a subscription, but leading nicely into this one. And last week, British GT was on YouTube. E1 is on YouTube. Hooray! Look, we love a series that is free to watch. Just as long as you've got the internet, you can watch it on YouTube.
But I'll put it this way: the reason it is free to air is that it hasn't got the fan base yet. Sometimes
not quite yet.
Yes, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a conscious decision. Sometimes it's a decision because they can't really show it anywhere else because none of the broadcasters are interested.
We'll get into that. Should we get into it now? Let's break it down. Yeah. So, why E1? I mean, it's a very different thing. I love to pass the net out. That's a boat pun, that one. I like to push the boat out. I was leading towards that one. That's terrible.
I was going to say, you started with fishing and then went into boating.
Anyway, I'm not very good at this, but pushing the boat out a little bit and going into a different spec of series completely. And that's the idea, is that there's so much out there that there is to watch and trying to test ourselves. So E1, I heard about this about 6 months ago, and straight away when I saw the E1 Racebird, the boat that they use, I was instantly like, okay, this looks like it was designed by Bruce Wayne, like some kind of really futuristic looking boat.
That's majority of the electric E stuff looks like it's been designed by Bruce Wayne. Do you not remember, is it the Gen 2 Formula E car? That looked like someone had nicked a Batmobile.
I think the current one kind of looks, yeah.
Oh no, the current one just looks like a jet fighter. Or something out of Tron.
Or going back a few years, the old Formula BMW. It's very triangular, very square, and very straight lines. But digressing.
Formula BMW, what a throwback! Jeez. Anyway,
I'm old. That's why.
I can tell.
Thanks. Cheers. That's just not because you're looking at the camera at my forehead. But so, as I say, E1's different. It's completely different discipline. I absolutely love the look of the thing and wanting to get into it. Yourself, why do you watch E1? Why have you been following E1?
Because it's one of Alejandro Agag's pet projects, and for some reason I continue to follow what he does. You know, I followed Extreme E since the start. I followed E1 since the start because it is interesting to see the development of these alternative fuels, energy sources, motorsport series. And it's also, especially after what happened to Extreme E, I just want to follow it because I hope it doesn't crash and burn in the same way Extreme E did. I have a little bit of hope for this.
I have. I was going to talk about Extreme E a lot because it felt like, as someone new to E1 watching this, I couldn't help but feel like I'm watching Extreme E again, except we've gone from sand and dunes and mud to water. But we'll get onto that. But as you say, Alejandro Agag, this is one of his series, and what I really like is that it's like ethical racing. It's, you know, he's trying to do things differently. He's saying you can still enjoy racing.
Just slight disclaimer: you say ethical racing, but who's the primary partner / investor / sponsor of the series? The PIF, Private Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. So the word ethical, if you don't mind, let's just put an asterisk against that. That's worth pointing out, that there's no point singing the praises of E1. We've got to remember that they are sponsored by a nation that,
maybe don't deal with ethics. Yeah, okay,
yes.
okay, true. Moving on quickly then from my faux pas, but yeah, a disclaimer at this point that, as I say, that some of the things we're talking about, as I'm watching this for the first time, and I feel like you're fairly new to it. Well, you said you've been watching from the start. But
I've been following it on social media. I know who's who, what's going on with it. The problem is it's never advertised enough, and it's impossible to keep up with it. But I almost have given up with trying to watch every single round. I just keep an eye on it and make sure I know what's going on with it.
So, as the disclaimer goes, we're not like the most in-depth people. We're not at the heart of this sport, but we're talking about what we enjoy and what it could do better. So if you're watching this as someone that's followed it and is absolutely a huge fan, and we're getting things wrong, please let us know. Tell us what we're getting wrong. Like, oh, we're calling it ethical when it's very not. It's got a big asterisk. So yeah, we said there was a lot on. There's also highlights on ITV. I wanted to point out as well, which was really good.
Yes.
So
ITV
it is available on TV.
I'm going to say ITVX, the most unusable of all the streaming services. But yes, that's the problem I have with ITV, is they keep picking up these things, but they never ever do anything to really promote it. And at the same time, they put it on ITV4, which, unless you're going to watch it over the internet, is the most unwatchable channel because it's still in standard def on anything other than Sky. So it's not really helping these championships grow, is it?
Not particularly, but it's better being on TV.
Oh, it's better than nothing.
Not,
but the problem is it's on ITV4, which is a lot of people do find, including me, unwatchable on a modern television because it's still in standard def. So it just doesn't produce a good picture.
I'm lucky in that having Sky for F1.
Yeah.
The big thing for me is that most of the stuff's on at like, oh, we'll put it on at 3 a.m. No one's watching TV.
Oh God, yeah.
So I can set it to record and watch it another day. But
that's the only thing ITV really care about in the motorsports arena is the British touring cars. But that's because it has a dedicated. It's almost a guaranteed viewership every season. You're going to get viewers, where something like an E1 or a Formula E is a big risk. I mean, ITV. The fact is, ITV started showing Formula E at the very beginning and actually gave a hoot about it. They signed Jenny Gow, they signed Mark Priestley to present it, they put it in a proper studio, and they really went for it. And even put the London finale on ITV and treated it like Formula One used to be treated. But now they just show the world feed, so it almost shows, rather than progression, we've had regression in the electric motorsport coverage arena on free-to-air basis.
Yeah, I really hope that changes. You know,
oh God,
Extreme E's gone, but you know, we've got Extreme H coming in. I hope that across the three of them, and with more coming in, that will change. But it's changing the viewpoint of, I think, of people watching. Like, there's probably people going, why would I watch E1 when there's F1 powerboats? And maybe I ought to have reviewed them first. But I mean, that's possibly a bigger discussion for a different day. To get into the midst of all that. But in terms of the pilots and the team owners, there's a few big names here. I mean, for me, when I watch Formula One and they cut to the garage and it's a celebrity, I'm not overly interested. Were any of the team owners of interest to you? Because they're quite big names, aren't they?
Well, they are big names. Personally, I think, to especially a lot of motorsport fans, it almost cheapens the look that if you've got a team owned by Steve Aoki, yeah, it's cool, but where's the commercial value to the championship? for example, with your Formula 1 and your Formula, these are manufacturers that are getting something out of it. There's no commercial value, or like, for example, with touring car racing or GT racing, you could watch it on the television on the track, go into the showroom the next day and test drive it, buy it. There's nothing to progress the power boating industry or the boating industry in general. You haven't got manufacturers like I was going to say Hatteras, but I don't even know if this exists, or yacht or boat. You know what I mean? There's nothing to the actual industry that's commercially valuable or viable even.
Yeah, I looked at some of the sponsors and I didn't even recognize the sponsors that
they're just the usual Formula E sponsors that have tagged along for the ride, I think. There's no individual ones from the boating industry. I mean, even if you look at the America's Cup, at least there's still something, you know, they've got investors and sponsors who are getting something out of it. You know what I mean? There's something technologically viable. That's what E1 needs to be doing, is to be converting the world of boats and yachts from these big gas guzzling whatever to EVs. And the way to do that is to go motor racing. If we can develop the battery technology in motor racing on power boats, then could we over time scale it up and scale it up, scale it up, and use it in trawlers or shipping? You know what I mean? There needs to be something that the series is doing, rather than it just being a playground for Richard Westbrook and Rafa Nadal and all that, just to turn up once every month and have a glass of champagne and pretend they're involved.
I think that's a very good point, a hugely important point. Like, where's the future of the series? Because again, Formula E, I think at the start you had like Leonardo DiCaprio had like the big names and the big draw, and trying to get fans on board.
Yeah, he was an investor in Venturi, who was still at least a manufacturer who were doing something and who'd been in electric vehicles for years. You know what I mean? They still had they still had celeb names, but they were only as investors in a bigger picture.
Yeah, hopefully that changes, because I looked at the name and just thought, okay, it's just a load of people that have put their names to it. There was
just whoever they could afford to sign. It's one of those, you know, when you watch those celebrity versions of a random TV show, it's who can we afford in the budget? Like someone from X Factor CV 17. It's that sort of level of, we have Saudi money, so we're just going to go with who we can afford, which is obviously the top levels of talent. But it's not a thing more than just a name. They're not actually they're not working day to day to develop the team, are they?
No, I did like, so one of the names, Mark Anthony, is not someone I know, an American singer, or musician, I should say. They did an interview with him at some point, and he did seem like really interested. He goes, he's really giving it the big hype. So at least they're doing that part of it well. But as you say, at the same time, I was looking at the names, and I was more interested in the pilots, because they come from such a diverse range. There was only a few names that actually came from F1 powerboats. They've gone to, running through, Katie Munnings from Extreme E, Lucas Ordonez from Gran Turismo, Danny Kloss, ex-GP2 and F1 test driver, Emma Kimmerleinen was the big name I wanted to mention, W Series
driver. Did she take time off to have a kid or something? I can't remember. There's something about her doing like a Finnish radio show or something in the off time. Just, you know what I mean? It is cool to see at least she's recovered her career, obviously, after Formula E went bust, and has not just disappeared into mediocrity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love Extreme E for saying like, oh, we'll have a male and a female, and it's the same here. We'll have a male and a female, and yeah, seeing all these names and from different areas, I kept getting confused with Sarah Price as well, thinking she was from W Series, but she's not. Just an Extreme.
That's Sarah Price from Extreme E and Dakar, and I think she's the first woman or only woman, someone will correct us in the comments, who'd won is it SXX or 4, like one of those buggies, or SXX or S by X4 stage at the Dakar for Can-Am Racing. Sarah Price. She is one of the first and only women. No, but she seriously is, because I remember it being mentioned on the Dakar highlights program, and she is, so Sarah Price is a really big name in the world of off-road racing.
I should look at my. I absolutely love. I covered the Dakar.
She raced for Hummer EV, Chip Ganassi Racing in Extreme E as well.
There we go. I'd forgotten about that she was in Extreme E as well. So you've got such a wide name, and Timmy Hansen was missing this weekend from Monaco, but he's
no,
World
because he was in
Rallycross.
Hungary, finishing second in the World Rallycross or third in his electric Peugeot.
So
he was second or third.
It's really cool, but it kind of puts it into perspective that they're going, do you know what, E1 might be here, but World Rally is still over here. And
World Rallycross has been rescued because they lost a promoter, and the FIA is now promoting it and showing it for free on YouTube. It's one of Spencer Lyon's pet projects.
I will be watching that at some point and reviewing that,
Rallycross.
because I absolutely love whenever I've played a rally game, that's been the Rallycross I've looked forward to the most, and it just looks awesome. But anyway, we're digressing again from E1, so we've discussed the pilots a bit. So yeah, they come from all manner of different areas. Again, you highlighted Emma Kimmerleinen as someone you knew before this. Was there any other real pilots that you sort of were
Sarah
the big draws?
Price, I know. Katie Munnings,
sorry.
I know from Katie Munnings, current Formula E pundit / analyst. Her and Alexa Randell and Nikki Shields are quite a good trio. Sarah Price from the Dakar and Extreme E. You meant obviously Emma Kimmerleinen, Timmy Hansen, and then I've forgotten the other ones you've mentioned.
Yeah, so the first name that I went, Danny Kloss, because I mean, he was in GP2 many years ago, but
was he in the years of GP2 where everyone was so mediocre there was no chance of anyone making it to F1? Sort of 2010 to 2013-ish. It's what I call the banter years of GP2.
Possibly, he might have just been before that, because he was HRT reserve driver as well.
Oh God,
so he might have just been a bit before.
That's a subject we should cover one day. Jesus. HRT, the only Formula One team where when you Google it, you get NHS results. It's the only Formula One team, but I have to Google twice.
There's a sub story here where I went to I was racing in a sim championship, and they obviously didn't sell merchandise, so I made my own. So I had HRT written across my arse. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
You were advertising menopausal treatment
across my butt. So I wondered why there was such a diverse range of pilots from different areas, and when you're watching it, it's really interesting to watch them pilot these boats. It's kind of, I was liking it to the dirty air. So one of the boats goes through and they leave this horrible wake of water, and they're trying to avoid it.
Well, yeah, it's because the wash does disrupt, because obviously they get on the plane, they get on like just on the very top little bit of the water and skip, and then obviously if you get the wash, it will just disturb the boat. And you're right, it is the same as dirty air, but you could argue it's a hell of a lot more dangerous than dirty air.
I mean, some of the onboards, when you hear it and they're going along, you just hear this go, and you're thinking, "Oh God, I hope the suspension in that seat's good."
Well, we don't have what they're doing is they are going up and then just crashing, and that is powerboat racing.
That's why I likened it to Extreme E again, when they're going over the bumps and just constantly sort of crashing back down. And watching it, I was like, it's really cool to see, and how they keep it in a straight line. I don't know when, like, one of the foils hits a wave or gets some of that wake, how the thing isn't just wrestled out of their hands and pulled 180. I didn't really know. But
what it is, it's a lot of incremental, tiny changes on the steering. You're just gently going like that just to hold it, because obviously when it lands, it is going to just spin a little bit. So it's just that incremental chinks on the not steering wheel. What do you call it?
Well, it is a steering wheel.
Yes, I was thinking planes for a second. Then yes, you're right. It is steering wheel.
Yoke on a plane. I know that, having designed them many years ago. But the steering, it's like an F1 style steering wheel with paddles and everything. So I was like, okay, you can just see that there's so many different series and disciplines just merging into this one series. So it's really interesting to watch them trying to navigate these boats. And then when they get to the turns and they throw it in, it's like stream turning as well. Like, it's really impressive just to sit and watch. If nothing else, just sit and watch the race birds going around was just impressive in itself. What wasn't as impressive was a lot of the issues. Now I don't know, again, because this is my first weekend watching it, but do they break down a lot, or was this something specific to Monaco this weekend?
I think this is due to it again being very new technology. Electric power boats aren't really, this is just new technology. Think about it. It happened in a lot of the early Formula E days as well. This is just part of it. It's gonna happen. It happened in Extreme E a lot. As time go on, they'll get better.
Yeah, fingers crossed. There was a few issues. There was one very big crash as well. We had in one of the qualifying rounds. So we'll get onto the format now, but we had a big crash, and that meant new boats, and I think it was Team Brazil and Team Rafa that crashed, I believe. So they had to swap boats out completely, and really glad to see everyone involved okay after that crash. But the format itself, again, I watched everything that was available. I did skip through some of the interviews and the bits in between, because unlike Extreme E or Formula E or anything like that, where they've got I was going to say 2 racers per car, but Formula E at some point had 2 cars per racer, where mid-race they had to jump and swap, and in Extreme E they had the swap over. Here they would do a race or qualifying or whatever it was, and then there'd be a big switch over. They'd have to group everything, so it felt like there was a lot of changeover, and everything seemed to take a lot longer than necessary, almost because of this needing to swap over. So part of me was like, is it really the best format that they could have with 2 pilots per boat, or again, will that change in the future? But that was my one big question to you, as someone that follows us a bit more, is do you see that the same way, that maybe in future, if they had 2 boats per team, or if they just did away with having 2 pilots and said, right, you should have 1 pilot per team?
I think as time goes on, as interest goes up, if we were going down again, trying to get industry partners and industry manufacturers and that involved, I would say 2 boats per team. But as long as it almost continues as this vanity project with the celebs and that, 1 pilot per boat, I would say.
Yeah, I do hope the celebrities, just to kickstart it. But being in season 2, and as I say, there's nine teams, and only one of them's a businessman. Everyone else is a cricketer, a Will Smith, or a tennis player. So yeah, it's, as you say, I hope it does. It's just to get it kickstarted off the ground. So when it got to the racing, admittedly, there was, like, as I said, the qualifying time trials. I get that, because a lot of racing has that. Fastest time gets you the best position. Then we got to races, and again, I was just watching race after race after race after race after race, thinking, I lost my way a bit with going, well, what am I actually watching? I'm enjoying watching racing when the boats get started and they're racing, but I didn't always understand what it was for, and I felt like they could maybe transmit that a bit better. Like, what is the point of this racing that I'm watching?
Yeah, the format, and it doesn't make sense because it's probably based off powerboat racing in general, but because a lot of these fans will be coming from road racing, surely it's better if they try and make it as close as a format as safely possible, in terms of, like, qualifying heats, races. Could you just make it simple and have make it simple? So yes, if you are having heats, then it could be 1-on-1 or something like that. Or you know what you could do? Just put an explainer video up. Just make it, just do what Formula E does, and literally before every race they explain the same thing, because they never know when a new person will have just landed on it.
That's me.
That's what I mean. That's all they needed to do. Is it takes probably half a day of filming and then an editing, just to put together a little bit of an explainer package.
It rested heavily on the 2 commentators, and they were brilliant, but they were based in London.
Well, so. Yeah, Greg Haynes, one of the commentators, specifically have brought in Gavin Emmett and Greg Haynes for some of these races. Weirdly from the world of motorcycle racing, because Greg Haynes does TNT Sports' Superbike coverage for the World Championship, and Gavin does MotoGP for TNT Sports. Interesting choice, but both very well equipped people. So, yes, leaving it up to the commentators. Most commentators would probably help us understand it and make it very easy. But again, a video breaking it down would be a lot more accessible for a new audience.
Absolutely, yeah. And a shout out, I think the female commentator was Shelley, I believe her name was. Again, they didn't introduce even them, they just started talking. And
exactly, yeah, there was
very knowledgeable though.
They could have even done a camera into the studio, just something. Just, there's a lot to be desired in the little things for a new viewer. You have to almost treat every broadcaster as a viewer's first. There will always be somebody new. And you always have to ensure that that new person understands what they're watching, because otherwise they're going to switch off after 10 minutes and go back to the football or the rugby or whatever they understand. You have to make it accessible. Don't rest on your laurels.
I always find it not upsetting, but trivial when someone's complaining that David Croft on Formula One is explaining how DRS works. And it's exactly as you just say. It's like, because some people don't know what it is, and that's okay.
That's fine, but at the same time, they need to balance it. They need to explain it without dumbing it down, if that makes sense for the current viewer. Yeah. And I've had that before. I've got annoyed, but actually over time it has made sense for it to be broken down. Or you could even do it via graphics. So you don't need to annoy the viewer. You just put some graphics up on the screen, which breaks it down, and then the viewer can just carry on watching it, whether they're new or experienced.
Yeah, 100% agreed. It feels, as I say, it's season 2, but it still feels like a working project. There's a lot to be desired.
It's a little bit unfinished, but at the same time, we felt like this in the early days. We had, for example, Truly Racing in season 2 having to back out after 2 rounds because the batteries wouldn't make it through customs. Just these things, hiccups will happen.
Yeah, so hopefully in 3, 4, 5 years, discussing this again on this podcast, going, wow, look how far things have come, because again, Formula E has come so far so quickly. We were lauding up pit boost this year.
It's gone up and sort of down a little bit in the last few years, because obviously you had that big boom at the end of 2018-19 when you had Mercedes, Porsche and that joining. Now you've kind of hit a little dip for it. You've got Stellantis is wavering on its involvement. You've got the problem with ERT, Kira, or whatever they're going to be called next season. That little bit of a wobble. But it will grow, I think, E1. It's not over yet, but what they need to do is ensure there's consistency. Don't do what Extreme E's done, and has cancelled every single event out of nowhere and then gone silent, which is the most incompetent running of a championship I think I've seen since the final days of Super League Formula / A1GP.
Wow, I didn't think you were old enough to know.
Oh, no, I wasn't alive. I just know about it because it's called reading Wikipedia late at night, or reading the books and reading the magazines and ensuring you know every single thing.
I thought they were brilliant ideas until they actually came about.
They were brilliant ideas, but what I'm saying is the final days when A1GP collapsed because it signed a very expensive Ferrari engine deal, its co-owner was being done for fraud, and then Super League Formula because it had an Angolan oil sponsor who was indicted for some illegal doings.
When your next one to read up about, if you haven't already read up, is Masters Grand Prix. I think.
Oh no, I know about GP Masters because I know about Grand Prix Masters. There's if you Google it, there's a grandstand episode from about 2005 presented by John Inverdale of all people. That's got Murray Walker commentary from Kyle Lamb. And then if you do some further digging, Georgie Thompson of all people on Sky Sports presented the coverage of the race at Silverstone.
I didn't know there was a second race. I remember watching.
Oh no, they're all on YouTube. It's on YouTube. It's Sky Sports 400 and whatever was the channel number, and it was on. The race at Silverstone was aired on Sky Sports, and the replay is on YouTube because there's a whole community of people who've just rescued these obscure motorsport broadcasts and stuck them on YouTube.
Excellent. So it's not just me going, I'm really old and here's something obscure that I remember briefly watching.
There's a Top Gear interview in the very early days of Nigel Mansell and them doing Star of Reasonably Priced Car, the F1 edition, and the GP Masters car was in there, and that was the whole point of the interview.
Yeah, I remember.
That's how I saw it, and then I digged into it even further. It was a brilliant idea, except they signed a load of but basically just old drivers who should have really been in an old people's home at that point.
It's possibly incontinent.
Anyways.
Wrapping up. Oh my god, where's this episode gone? So yes, wrapping up on E1. Left to be desired. I think it's well worth watching like highlights, watching YouTube, like the social media content of it. But in terms of tuning in for 2 hours, it felt a bit much. It felt like you got into the heart of the problems by doing so.
If you're doing if you're doing the wash thing, the ironing, or life admin, stick it on in the background. Otherwise, watch the highlights.
Yeah,
it's not a sit down on the sofa, grab a beer kind of event.
No, but it's just impressive to watch them go around and to see some brilliant names from racing. Give it a chance, give it a go. Luci, thank you so much for coming and unwrapping welcome. E1 with me. Where can people find you online?
LJB Motorsport on everything. Quite literally. It's the same name, same logo, same brand. Find me on everything. You know, you could even probably at this point find me in a Pigeonhole or something. I don't know.
I need to try that.
Wax, Telegram, anything you can find me. Usually,
just come and follow you down the street as well.
Yeah. Usually, I'm quite easily findable at this point.
Excellent. I'll put all the links so that's just extra findable in the notes below this. So yes, thank you so much for coming to join me. I'll have you back at some point, maybe to review Rallycross, something like that. We'll get you back involved.
You can have me on anything. I watch it anything and everything. So
that's the exact person that we're after on this podcast. Get people watching everything and anything and falling in love with different series, because there's a lot out there.
There's a lot more to life than Formula One.
Absolutely. I don't think I will be covering the next 2 races. I'm actually off to Barcelona. Unfortunately, I'm going away on holiday, so I won't be covering the next 2 race reviews. I might do a little bit of something, but there'll be a slight break from this podcast. But if you've listened to this review of E1, there might be something about Formula E this weekend. I will speak to you after the next 2 races and after the summer break. But for now, thank you for listening, and good night. Goodbye.